Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's really an honor for me to share some of our experience of our work related with SDG. I just mentioned that we are all digesting SDG and to see how it's relevant to our work. Our monitor center started 10 years ago. It was before the SDGs. So this presentation was reflecting what we have been doing and how it's linked with SDG. And we are also trying to consolidate our program more toward this SDG. So we all know that SDG has 17 goals, which could be all relevant to tourists. And within the 17 goals, three are most mentioned, relevant to tourists and address the tourist. And so we are trying to see that how will our work, monitoring work, can really linked with this SDG. I just briefly mentioned about our observatory. Now we have 8 observatories, and it's distributed all along China. And China is a big country, so we selected these monitoring centers all over China to represent the different types of the destination, some of the minority areas and some in the East Coast areas, metropolitan cities. So we want to say that how these local destinations are working toward the sustainability and what the experience they can get. So this is the overview about the scale of the destinations and the type of the destinations. So you can see it's really varieties. So the lessons we can gain will be maybe useful for the other countries. Okay, so we were trying to prepare this presentation. We have consolidated what are the most relevant things that can be linked with SDG. And we have gone through all this, our monitoring report and what they have been doing. We have found out, in fact, there are 5 areas which are most relevant to the SDG. One is the poverty alleviation, job creation. Another monitoring work we are doing is the local culture conservation and innovation, and agro product, the nature conservation, and finally the improvement of the local well-being. So I'll come to this. So a lot of our monitoring work really is related with the poverty alleviation through tourists. So in the case of Jiaozhou and Luoyang, they have poverty targeting programs initiated by the government. So we are trying to help them to measure how their monitoring program are really effective or not, and then reporting back to them and trying to help them to targeting those who are really improved. And we are also trying to monitor how these rural areas can be regenerated through tourists, by measuring the improvement of their rural infrastructure, and to see how many young people return back to the village, and also reporting back to this community and local government to see whether they can improve some of the business environment for this returning youth. And we're also trying to monitor the responsible partnership, especially between these corporations and the local resident. So you see, this is the case of the Honggang. They have a big corporation and the surrounding communities. So we are helping them and working with them, trying to build the relationship with the local residents, to let all these local residents to participate in the tourist and get benefit. And this is the very big issues that in our monitorings, and which is very relevant to these SDGs. And another one is really what we are trying to do is really identify the local cultures and to see whether these local cultures can be preserved or be further developed through the tourist. And what we have found out is we have a very good institutions already set up for this tangible heritage through the conservation plans and various institutions settings. What are really challenges are the intangible heritage. So we are trying to monitor whether they have set up the heritage registration system for intangible heritage, and whether they can identify the key persons to be in these heritage programs. And also what we're also monitoring is whether this local culture has been incorporated into educations, and also how many cultural tourist products are developed and souvenirs are developed. And we also found out that currently there's a lack of the cultural tourist product, which can really facilitate the participation of the learning and co-producing by the tourist. So these are within our monitoring center, Xishuangban. So you see that they are developing the local product and also learning the local cultures. So trying to also bring these lessons to the other monitoring centers to see whether they are effective. This is what has been doing in Kaunas. So develop the tourist product and trying to preserve the local cultures. And another thing we are trying to do is to really identify the green products which can be used in the tourist. This is also relevant to this SDG, which is trying to promote the agri-product. And we found out that all these areas, they have the interest to develop this green product, but they still really need support from the government and the mediums. Now, currently, it's mainly developed by the community and business. And another thing we have been trying monitoring is the ecosystem conservation. A substantial of destinations is really within these protected conservation areas, which they have to balance the conservation with the tourist development. And we also found out that the relationship between this conservation and development can be various according to the places. For instance, in the developed areas like Changshu, now they are restored the nature resources, but in other areas it's more conservations. So we are trying to monitor whether they have programs to protect the areas, and whether this planning and program have been effectively implemented. And we are trying to bring this out to these various stakeholders. And together with this monitoring places, we try to promote education programs for public and schools, and incorporate the university and research in this program. So these are some of these monitoring things we have been doing, and trying to link the university with these nature reservations. So a lot of data have been collected and can be available for the research. And this is biodiversity. So the last thing is we're trying to really to see whether the tourists can really contribute to these destinations. Overall, we found out all our destinations which develop tourists have a good evaluations of their life, because tourists really helped to improve the public infrastructure and also maintain a good environment. Another thing is they really feel at home. They have a very strong cultural identity because there is a program to promote the intangible culture. So these are the main key areas that we have been trying to monitor, measure, and feedback into this local government and the various stakeholders. And we have been seeing that they are making quite a progress and also really relevant to this SDG. What lessons we have found out is we have found out that SDGs are really ambitious. It needs a lot of cooperations between stakeholders and international and national institutions. And our monitor centers is really trying to building these bridges among these stakeholders by providing them the data and also helping them to see whether there's any actions to address these issues. And we also feel that most of these SDG goals are really relevant to tourists. And in fact, each of our observatory has its own focus, but they all have certain aspects with all the SDG. Now the challenge is whether we can really monitor all these indicators and measurement related with SDG, or whether we have to identify each key areas which related with SDG, for instance, like poverty alleviations, cultural roles, and nature conservations. And also, as I said, when we look back of our indicators and management, we also found out, for instance, like gender, it's very much big issue in tourism. But to now, we haven't really measured it. Whether we should include it, then it means we have more work to do. And another thing we want to do is really linking our monitors into actions. Now, we have so many monitoring things and want the locals to take so many actions. But in fact, they can only do the actions one by one. So we also have to prioritize our key action. These are our lessons and challenges. Thank you.